Welcome to Conversations on the Coast, San Francisco's premier author interview program. We have a very long title today, and the author's name, though, thank goodness, is short. It's Mary Powell's. Poles, like
as if there were an
political polls.
Yes, that.
Mary Powell has written a book, and it is a non-fiction book. This is a book that really happened, and the title is Accidentally on Purpose. A one-night stand, my unpleasant parenthood, and loving the best mistake I ever made.
No, my unplanned parenthood.
And I'm sorry,
it's been
unplanned.
Very pleasant.
That's when you can't. Unplanned. That's when you can't read your own writing. I'm sorry. It's published by Echo, which is an imprint of HarperCollins, and we got off to a roaring start. On the back of this jacket, friends of yours has said some interesting things, and I just want to go through some of the words they use.
Okay. Thoughtful,
funny, sexy, a delightful meditation. Poles is an astutely witty and no-holds-barred raconteur. Funny, brutally honest, that's of the story, and then back to you. Droll, tenacious, acerbic, loyal, exasperating.
That's one of my favorites.
I'll buy that. And real. But there's one word missing, in my opinion. And that word would be courage, or courageous, or gutsy.
Well, that's very nice of you to say.
You see, there are so many easy ways out of the situation you got yourself in. So many quick ways. And it's over. And I think it takes courage to accept the situation, to say, let me have the child and let me see what I can do. I have a young man in my own life who did this and astounded me that he did it.
How old was he?
Probably in his late 30s.
Okay.
And it was a really strange situation. Two of them lawyers, and not friends or anything. And boom. And I went to the baptism of the child in Los Angeles. And I think he was courageous, and I think you are, and I congratulate you.
Well, thank you. I think there's one thing that it's hard to feel very courageous when you're 39 and you wanted to be a mother anyway, and you know, I think to take the other route, you know, to have an abortion would have been something that I didn't really feel like I could live with myself.
Well, but one of the things that you say is that you're 39, and because you're 39, you had certain, quote, standards that you thought of when you thought of having a child.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna pick that genetic match. You know, it was gonna be so great, and you know, produce my little Rhodes Scholar.
Right background, similar interests.
Right.
You know, all the things that a woman of 39 with a brain would be thinking about when they're thinking about children. They're thinking about a life partner.
Yeah.
And all like that. Now, the other thing is that I am completely truthful, you write. I have never cheated on anyone, nor would I. While it's true that I have two cats, the universal symbol of spinsterhood, I also love dogs. Dogs love me. I come from a family of 6, so I work well in chaos. I am social, I can cook, I can make and have made lobster rolls, 40 people in an afternoon, with fish chowder on the side. Now, that's a damn good talent to have.
Someone else was paying for the lobster, though, I should say.
Yes, you are such a catch, my friend. Karen said once, using a tortilla chip to scoop up the ceviche I just made for her, I just don't understand how you're single. Crunch, crunch, scoop. It doesn't make sense. So that really was where you were when the one-night stand occurred. And lo and behold, you became pregnant. And as I say, to me, there are many ways that you could have gone from there. And it's surprising that you took the course you did.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm still surprised by it. I mean, the way things unfolded. I mean, I just went out to this bar just to have a drink. I mean, certainly I was feeling, you know, like bored that night or something, and maybe there was some biological drive because clearly I was ovulating. But I'm still surprised. It's just not supposed to happen that way.
Well, and then there was Matt. This is this is the gentleman that you went home with, or you went to his house and had sex. And upon reflection, you say the only thing he had to recommend him was his beautiful smile.
Well,
and great body.
Well, yeah, at that point, that's all
Yeah.
he had to recommend. I mean, now 5 years into knowing him and being in this co-parenting arrangement with him, I have to say he has a tremendous amount to recommend.
Accidentally on Purpose, and we won't go through the long subtitle, is not just a woman's
Please
story.
don't, yeah.
Matt makes it something much more. Stay tuned and we'll find out.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at JimFosterCoc and email jimfostercoc@gmail.com.
The title of today's book is Accidentally on Purpose, and I'm going to try and read the subtitle correctly. A One-Night Stand, My Unplanned Parenthood. How's that? And
Beautiful.
Loving the Best Mistake I Ever Made. Mary Pohl is here to talk about it. It's published by Echo, which is an imprint of HarperCollins, and a dear friend and fellow novelist, Heidi Ulowitz, has this to say, in part, about the book. Pohl's is an astutely witty and no-holds-barred raconteur. That means you say nasty things about people. I think that's what that means. Her struggles to parent her son and her son's young father, not to mention pay the bills and keep her sanity, will grip you to the very last page. This is a feminist tale for our age. That's the part of it that you like.
She's a good blurber, isn't she? She really gives some punch to it.
The thing that I liked about that is that you have struggles here to parent not just the son who's about to be with us, but also the father, the young father. That's an interesting observation, and I think it's true to the story.
I think it is, although I know that it would pain Matt to hear me say that. I mean, he was 10 years younger than I was. He was 29 when we met. So he had some growing up to do. I mean, on some level, he was hugely mature. He accepted this from the beginning. He said he wanted to be involved, which is amazing. But he was sort of farther down the career path than I was, for instance.
Well, no, he wants to be a father and a friend and no more. Now, again, again, looking at you and where you were and how old you were, that's not exactly what you were looking for.
Well, from him, when he first said that, I knew in my gut that he was right, that being friends was a better go. But, we had sort of a deviation on the road, and that was that I had pregnancy hormones and thought about sex all the time.
Yeah.
So we did have a relationship while I was pregnant. And, now we are really, really are good friends, though. It's a very rewarding thing.
I think one of the most important things that goes on in this story is his change, his evolving, his coming from a very immature person who didn't have a job and really wasn't interested in having one, for example.
Immature in some ways, but very mature in other ways. In his acceptance of the situation and in his willingness to give love to his child. I mean, I think that was mature.
Well, to give love, especially to the boy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, little guy, Matt said. This is one time when you picked him up at the BART station. The squalling continued unabated. I am so in love with you, little one, he says. Matt murmured. His voice was as tender as I've ever heard a man's voice. But you have got to stop crying. I kept on driving and said nothing, but my heart, bruised as it was for myself, sang for Dolan. His father was in love with him. I didn't forgive Matt on that day, nor did I forget what he'd done, but something in me knew then that I'd survive, and that this love, the love Matt had for Dolan, was what mattered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was right after I had found out that he had another one-night stand
Yeah.
while I was pregnant.
Yeah.
But yeah, we worked through that one.
But that's what really has happened is, in many ways, the whole center of the story becomes Dolan.
Yeah.
Dolan dominates in a beautiful way.
He's a good kid.
Nobody can push him aside. Nobody can not smile when he smiles. Nobody cannot say "I love you" to this boy. Why didn't you bring him in here? We could have chatted.
Because he's at school probably busily kicking a teacher or something terrible like that. Because now he's 4 and he's not so innocent. He's a little naughty boy sometimes. But yeah, it's funny. It's like if you make the child the priority rather than the relationship between the parents, whether that's argumentative or angry or whatever, I think that then things can really work out, even when you don't think that they would. I didn't think they would, but he's always been our priority, and so it's all fallen into place.
One of the other things you had going for you as a single mother is you had a family back in Maine.
Yeah.
But they were very, very responsive and very, very supportive, I thought.
Yeah, they're quick to pick up the phone.
Right down the line, every one. Because your mom was in a state of dementia, so she really wasn't on board. But your father, who tends to be bombastic and make quick judgments, held off, and by the end, he was a great admirer of Matt, I think.
Yeah, I think, the first thing he said was, "Is this young man going to marry you?"
Yes, well, that's what fathers are supposed to say.
That's right. But, it wouldn't have been a good thing if that had happened. And he did come around, even though he was, when he was 84 when this happened. And he had,
that's right.
84.
He was, wow.
And
84.
he had been raised, Catholic in this Irish neighborhood of Newark. And he was not, it wasn't the kind of thing he expected from his daughter.
There's at least one, in my opinion, hilarious scene in this book, and we're going to visit it when we come back.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at JimFosterCoc and email JimFosterCoc@gmail.com.
This is Jim Foster. It is Conversations on the Coast, accidentally on purpose, a one-night stand, my Unplanned Parenthood, and Loving the Best Mistake I Ever Made is the title of the book. Mary Coles is the author, and a woman. Is this another one of your roommates? Peggy Orenstein?
No.
No? Okay, all right.
Not a roommate.
Peggy Orenstein has some wonderful things to say about it I'd like to share with you. Maybe you're single, maybe you're a mother, maybe you're both, maybe you're neither. Doesn't really matter. That takes care of the universe, kind of. That's
all
very,
women.
That's very, very good
men.
the way she did that. Mary Polz's story of a modern woman whose life refuses to go exactly as she planned it, far transcends its particulars. By turns, thoughtful, funny, and sexy, accidentally on purpose is a delightful meditation on partnership. Partnership. That's what you two are able to establish, you and Matt. Desire, fulfillment, and surprises. We have not mentioned that in your storied past, you were at one time, in fact, while this was all going on, you were the film critic for the Contra Costa Times.
Yes, until March of this year. Actually.
Yes, and it happens that you took Dolan to one and only one press screening of a film.
Yeah, that's
wearing white jeans.
I was wearing white jeans, yes.
And Dolan was wearing whatever Dolan wears. And what happened?
Well, it seemed to be that the movie caused him to move his bowels repeatedly. And I was still a new enough mother at that point to have not realized that sometimes it's one long thing and you should maybe wait before you change the diaper. But he had already gotten it on me, and so, yeah.
And you were squeezed in next to a rather grumpy...
Next to a grumpy woman. Yes.
Critic.
A fellow critic,
yes. And
who always carried a cane and looked like she might want to hit you with it, yeah.
And you have to get up and go outside This happens twice, if I remember the story.
Happens twice. Yep.
And so you decided the solution to this was to get rid of the kid, put him temporarily, you thought, in somebody's office outside the screening area.
Office.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it unfortunately the door closed, then you didn't have the key.
Right. I never would have thought it would have been a locked door. I mean, and then I couldn't find him. And the baby was crying when I put him down. So I felt like the worst mother in the world and frantic. I was running all over. The projectionist often goes out for a smoke while he's showing a movie.
Oh, sure. Those things run on their own.
Yeah. So I went out to look for him on the street.
Not
He
like
wasn't
years
there.
ago you had to stand there and watch it lest it come off track or something.
He did get out of the office at some point, though. Yes, I did rescue my child, and he was not crying anymore when I got to him.
Dolan brings new life into your world at a very good time because you're losing people, mom and dad. Mm-hmm. And at a certain point, you're right, Dolan was so essential. There had been so many times when I had watched death circling my loved ones and put my face down into his hair and smelled life, and had known that time had somehow been on my side just as much as it had been against me. I had spent so long obsessing over the biological clock, aware, yet at the same time ignorant on some level of the power of the bigger clock, the one ticking away on my parents' lives, that I'd had Dolan when I did now seemed like a miraculous stroke of luck. So Matt's not the only one who's evolved in this story.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope I'm a kinder, gentler Mary after writing this. Memoirs are kind of like therapy,
Yeah.
Cheaper therapy.
Well, you guys tried therapy. There was
we had one session with a couples counselor. Yeah, that didn't go so well, but it was a good story afterwards.
Well, it didn't go so well because you kept wanting her to put him in his place, and she kept putting you in yours.
Yeah, and
that's the way I read it.
Yeah, and that's
what kind of good therapy is that?
Well, in a way, it's kind of the story of the book. I feel like I was looking to a lot of people in my life to condemn Matt for what he didn't have, instead of praising him for what he did have. And I learned my lesson in the end.
Yeah, and when people ask me to describe Dolan, I usually struggle for a minute trying to sum him up. Should I detail his insane passion for baseball, talk about his sense of humor, or the way he makes me feel? Invariably what I say, he's just really nice, which is so wonderfully true. Moreover, every time I say it, I think he's nice like his daddy.
Yeah.
He's nice like his daddy. What a wonderful place to get to, huh?
Yeah.
I think it's been a wonderful life you have here with Dolan and Matt and all that kind of thing. And I thank you for coming by to talk about it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let me say it one more time. Accidentally on Purpose is the title of the book, and I'm going to stop there.
You can just stop there.
Mary Poles is the author. This has been Conversations on the Coast, and I'm Jim Foster.
Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at Jim Foster COC and email jimfostercoc@gmail.com.